Eleanor Thompson sat by the window of her modest home in suburban Los Angeles, clutching a cold cup of tea, her gaze distant as she looked out at the garden she had tended for 30 years. At 65, a retired history teacher, she had once stood at a lectern, teaching hundreds of students about Revolution's heroes and lessons from the past. But her own life, if told, was a story of silent sacrifice. Born in a small California town to working-class parents with little more than calloused hands, Eleanor excelled in school, escaping poverty through scholarships. She married a kind construction engineer who died early in an accident, leaving her to raise their only son, Michael, pouring all her love and sweat into him. From a young age, Michael was her pride. She worked extra hours to buy him books and nice clothes, even skipping meals to ensure he attended good schools. "My son will succeed. He'll be a famous lawyer," she often said, her warm smile hiding sleepless nights worrying about tuition. Michael grew up, studied law, married Sarah, a beautiful, lively homemaker, and had a son, Tommy. Eleanor thought her life was complete. She saved every penny from her pension, amassing hundreds of thousands in savings to care for her grandson and help Michael buy a house and car. She often reminded Michael that family is everything, and he would nod, hugging her tightly. But then, a heart attack struck like an unannounced storm. It was an autumn morning. Eleanor was watering plants when a sharp pain gripped her chest, her limbs going numb. She called Michael, her voice trembling. "Son, I'm not okay." Michael arrived quickly, rushing her to the hospital. The doctor diagnosed a weak heart requiring emergency valve replacement surgery. On the hospital bed, exhausted from medication and blurred by worry, Eleanor thought of Michael, Tommy, and her home with its fragrant rosemary garden. "I'll be fine, my dear," she whispered, as Michael held her hand. The surgical waiting room was cold, its stark white lights casting a warning. Michael entered, holding a thick stack of papers, his smile calm but with something unfamiliar in his eyes. "Mom, these are just standard forms," he said, his voice gentle, almost coaxing, medical power of attorney, insurance, and some financial documents. "I'll handle everything if something happens." Eleanor blinked, the words on the papers swimming like tiny fish. She saw her name, but something seemed off, perhaps a misspelling. She was too tired, the morphine clouding her mind. "Are you sure, son? Do I need to read them carefully?" she asked weakly. Michael smiled, the smile she once cherished most, now strangely distant. "You trust me, don't you, Mom? It's just preparation. You'll be fine." She nodded, trusting the son she'd sacrificed her life for outweighing any doubt. Her trembling hand signed twice the scrawled signatures, jagged like wounds. Unbeknownst to her, those papers included not just medical consents but asset transfers and bank account control documents. Michael gathered the papers and kissed her forehead. "Rest, Mom. I'm here." The surgery lasted 5 hours. In her drug-induced sleep, memories flooded back, grueling workdays, to buy Michael a new bike, silent tears after her husband's death, joy at Michael's graduation. She thought if she died she'd be content knowing she gave her son everything, but she survived. Waking up, pain radiated from the incision, but a more bottomless emptiness gnawed at her heart. The nurse smiled. "You're doing well, lucky you. Your son stayed the whole time." Eleanor nodded weakly, but then noticed her wedding ring, a keepsake from her husband, was gone. The locket necklace with her mother's photo was missing. "Nurse, where's my jewelry?" she asked, voice tinged with panic. The nurse frowned. "Maybe in the valuables bag, but there's no bag here." Eleanor's heart raced. She reached for her phone. Gone. Her purse and house keys all vanished. Michael walked in, his smile unchanged. "Mom, you're awake. I've been so worried." She asked about her belongings. He shrugged. "The hospital probably has them. I'll check later." But Eleanor sensed deceit in his voice. She forced a smile, but doubt crept in, cracking the wall of trust. 3 days later, Michael wheeled her home. She was stunned to see a sleek white Tesla instead of her old Honda. "New car, son?" she asked, exhausted. Michael laughed. "The Honda broke down, Mom. I upgraded. Enjoy it." Eleanor stayed silent, watching Los Angeles blur past like a distant dream. The door lock was now a keypad at home, opened by Michael's phone. The house smelled strange of artificial pine cleaner. "Where's my stuff?" she asked, voice trembling. "In the garage, Mom. We're organizing." "Sarah wants things tidier," Michael said. Sarah, her daughter-in-law, once called her Mom, sweetly. Now she barely nodded in greeting. The living room was spotless, a new rug hiding the old wine stain. Her favorite recliner held an unfamiliar beige blanket, not her mother's hand-stitched one. Her bedroom, now labeled guest room with a sign, was painted pale gray with matching decorative pillows. No family photos, no old books, no lavender scent. Eleanor sat on the bed staring at the hospital white ceiling, tears streaming down. She felt like an uninvited guest in the home she'd toiled to build. That night, Eleanor checked her phone, which Michael had returned for her bank account. The app was gone. An email confirmed the primary account holder was updated. Her savings, $200,000 painstakingly saved, were closed. Her IRA was gone. The joint account held just $40,000. She sat, frozen hands shaking. Michael entered with a cup of peppermint tea. "Drink this, Mom. Your favorite." Her voice broke Michael. "What happened to my accounts?" He didn't flinch. "I consolidated them, Mom. You can still access them." "Don't worry." But Eleanor worried. She wept silently, recalling her sacrifices, forgoing travel dreams for Michael's college, selling jewelry for his house. Now her own son, her flesh and blood, had taken everything. The pain in her heart wasn't from the surgery, but from betrayal. She whispered, "Why, my son? If you're following this story and feel Eleanor's pain, please like, share, and subscribe to the channel for the next part. Have you ever been betrayed by family? Share in the comments." Eleanor Thompson sat in the wheelchair, her tired eyes fixed on the window of Michael's sleek white Tesla. The familiar roads of suburban Los Angeles passed, but the sense of home was gone. The house she had nurtured for 30 years, where she cooked dinners for Michael and read to Tommy, now felt like a faded painting, its outlines blurred. The pain from her heart surgery lingered, but the ache in her soul cut deeper, like an invisible blade slicing through memories. She had survived the operation, but why did it feel like she was losing everything? As Michael wheeled her through the front door, the sharp scent of artificial pine cleaner hit her. It wasn't the smell of home, not the burnt edges of cookies or the damp earth of her beloved garden. The house gleamed coldly pristine, like a real estate showroom awaiting buyers. Michael smiled, but that smile now sent shivers down her spine. "Rest, Mom." He said, "I'll take care of everything." His voice soft, but lacking warmth. Eleanor nodded, not out of agreement, but from exhaustion. She looked around. A new gray velvet rug covered the old wine stain she'd hidden with a plant 3 years ago. Her beloved recliner now bore a strange beige blanket, not the wool her mother had stitched with care. "Where's my stuff, Michael?" Eleanor asked, her voice hoarse. She tried to stay calm, but her heart pounded. Michael shrugged as if her question was trivial. "In the garage, Mom. Sarah's reorganizing. You know how she likes things neat." Sarah, her daughter-in-law, who once hugged her and called her Mom warmly, now gave a cursory nod as she passed through the living room, phone in hand, eyes glued to the screen. Eleanor felt like an uninvited guest, pushed to the margins of the home she'd paid for over decades. Her old bedroom, once filled with memories, was now painted pale gray with neatly arranged decorative pillows like a magazine spread. There were no family photos on, and there was the table or lavender scent from the sachets in her closet. A small sign hung on the door, guest room. Eleanor gave a bitter chuckle, but faded, leaving a sour taste. She sat on the bed, staring at the stark white ceiling, reminiscent of the hospital room she'd just left. "This isn't my home anymore," she whispered, her voice trembling, unsure if she spoke to herself or the now alien walls. That night, sleep eluded her. The surgical pain nagged, but the mental anguish was worse. She opened the phone Michael had returned, searching for her banking app. It was gone. She checked her email, heart racing, and found a Chase Bank notification. The primary account holder was updated, and the savings account ended in 0923. She read it repeatedly, hands shaking until she nearly dropped the phone. Updated, she murmured, feeling the floor crumble beneath her. She tried logging into her IRA, but the retirement fund she'd saved for decades was gone. The joint account held just $40,197, a fraction of what she once had. She sat frozen, breathing heavily. All her sacrifices, late nights, grading papers, skipping new dresses for Michael's basketball shoes, had vanished. The next morning, Eleanor watched Michael and Sarah in the kitchen. Michael poured coffee, chatting about a new case at his law firm. Sarah scrolled through Instagram, her blonde hair gleaming under the light. Neither acknowledged her nor asked what she wanted to eat. Tommy, her 5-year-old grandson, ran in hugging her legs. "Grandma, tell me a dinosaur story today." Eleanor smiled, ruffling his hair, but her eyes stayed on Michael. When Tommy ran off to play, she asked, her voice soft but sharp, "Michael, what had happened to my accounts?" Michael didn't blink, setting down his coffee. "Oh, Mom, I just consolidated some things. You can still use them, don't worry." His tone was calm, like discussing the weather, but Eleanor saw tension in his eyes. She nodded, feigning acceptance, but a fire sparked within her. She recalled her trembling signatures in the hospital, Michael's too-perfect smile, Sarah's evasive glances. They're hiding something, she thought, gripping the table's edge. She began noticing small details. The fridge was stocked with expensive organic food, but no trace of her homemade jams. Her wardrobe was cleared, and Sarah's designer dresses and heels replaced hers. A corner held a label, Grandma's stuff, with a few old clothes and worn shoes. She opened the kitchen cabinet. Her chamomile tea was shoved to the back, labeled Grandma's. She found an old family photo in a drawer, Michael, Sarah, Tommy, and her taken at a park, but it was folded, her face hidden. Tears fell silently, but she wiped them away. "I'm not weak," she told herself. That night she rummaged through the garage where her belongings were piled like trash. Her husband's letters, history books, and even her old sewing machine were all discarded. She found a notebook detailing her expenses and small dreams. One entry read, "Buy plane tickets for Tommy when he graduates." Clutching it, tears fell again, but this time alongside pain was resolution. She wouldn't let Michael and Sarah erase her. Eleanor started taking notes, detailing everything, the email confirmation, the missing funds, and Michael's averted eyes when discussing money. She recalled the hospital papers, her shaky signatures, the blurred text, a warning. Something's wrong, she thought. She opened her laptop and accessed her bank transaction history. A large transfer, $150,000, to an unknown account, dated the day of her surgery. Her heart pounded. "They planned this," she whispered, voice trembling with anger. Looking at the garden, the rosemary still thriving, she saw her own resilience. Eleanor was no longer the unthinkingly sacrificing mother. She was a betrayed woman, but still strong enough to fight. She knew the road ahead would be painful, but wouldn't let Michael and Sarah win. "They think I'm old and easily fooled," she thought, eyes blazing. "They're wrong." Eleanor Thompson lay on the unfamiliar bed in the guest room of the home she once called her sanctuary, moonlight filtering through thin curtains illuminating her face. It was late, but sleep wouldn't come. The ticking clock on the wall was like a second heartbeat, reminding her that time was slipping away, each second pushing her further from the life she'd built. The pain from her heart surgery lingered, but the soul's pain was sharper, like a needle piercing through memories of sacrificing everything for her son Michael and his family. She sat up, silver hair, disheveled eyes, resolute. The previous night, she'd discovered the banking app missing from her phone, and an email confirmed a change in primary account holder, slicing through her trust. But Eleanor refused to sink into despair. She'd endured loss, her husband, her health, and knew reclaiming what was hers required action. She opened her old laptop, which was the only item Michael and Sarah hadn't organized, into the garage. The screen flickered its dim blue light, highlighting her weathered face, not masking the sharp eyes of a teacher who taught students to analyze truth. Logging into her email, her heart raced as she found another Chase Bank notification, transfer confirmation completed. She clicked, breath catching. Her savings account, $200,000 saved from her pension, forgone purchases, and late-night work was closed. That money was her dream, a trip to Italy, a scholarship for Tommy, a safety net for her old age. Now it was replaced by a cold line account consolidated into a joint account ending in 0923. The joint account with Michael as primary holder held just $40.177, a fraction of her wealth. She scrolled to older emails, hoping for clues. One line froze her trust ownership, updated new owner, Michael Thompson. Not just her savings, but her IRA meant for her grandson was gone. She clenched her fists, nails digging into her palms. "How dare you, Michael?" she whispered, voice trembling with anger and pain. She recalled working late at school, grading papers to afford Michael's law books, skipping dinners with friends, to save all for her flesh and blood to betray her. The next morning, Eleanor maintained a calm facade. At the breakfast table, she watched Michael and Sarah. Michael poured coffee, discussing a new client at his law firm, voice upbeat as if nothing was amiss. Sarah scrolled her phone, blonde hair, gleaming lips pursed when glancing at Eleanor. Sipping chamomile tea, the last remnant of her presence in the kitchen, Eleanor asked, voice soft but sharp, "Michael, can you explain my accounts? I noticed changes." Michael didn't flinch, setting down his coffee with a practiced smile. "Mom, I just consolidated some things. Easier to manage. You can still use them, don't worry." His words were sweet, but his eyes betrayed tension, as if fearing she'd probe further. Sarah looked up, smiling faintly. "Rest, Grandma. We'll handle the money stuff." Eleanor nodded, but a plan formed within. She no longer trusted Michael's smile or Sarah's feigned kindness. She noticed more minor details. The fridge held costly organic foods, and there was no trace of her homemade jams. Her wardrobe was cleared, and Sarah's designer dresses and heels replaced hers. A corner labeled Grandma's stuff held old clothes and worn shoes. Opening the kitchen cabinet, her tea was pushed to the back, labeled Grandma's. She found an old family photo in a drawer, Michael, Sarah, Tommy, and her at a park, but it was folded, her face obscured. Tears fell, but she wiped them away. "I'm not weak," she told herself. That night, she searched the garage where her belongings were piled like refuse. Her husband's letters, history books, and old sewing machine were all discarded. She found a notebook of expenses and small dreams, one entry reading, "Buy plane tickets for Tommy when he graduates." Clutching it, tears fell again, but with them came resolve. She wouldn't let Michael and Sarah erase her. Eleanor began noting details, the email confirmation, the missing funds, and Michael's averted gaze when discussing money. She recalled the hospital papers, her shaky signatures, the blurred text, a warning. Something's wrong, she thought. On her laptop, she accessed bank transaction history, a $150,000 transfer to an unknown account dated on her surgery day. Her heart pounded. "They planned this," she whispered, voice shaking with anger. Gazing at the garden, the thriving rosemary reflected her resilience. Eleanor was no longer the unthinkingly sacrificing mother. She was a betrayed woman, still strong enough to fight. The road ahead would hurt, but she wouldn't let Michael and Sarah win. "They think I'm old and easily fooled," she thought, eyes blazing. "They're wrong." Eleanor Thompson sat silently in the dark of the unfamiliar guest room, the glow of an old iPad casting light on her weathered face, highlighting her deep wrinkles and resolute eyes. It was late, the house silent, except for the soft patter of rain outside whispering secrets she was about to uncover. After discovering her manipulated bank accounts, Eleanor knew Michael had betrayed her lifelong trust. But instinct told her more was hidden, and Sarah, her daughter-in-law, who once called her mom with a sweet smile, was the key to those mysteries. She found the iPad in a bedside drawer, hidden under tissues and labeled care supplies. She thought Michael and Sarah had discarded it, assuming she couldn't use it. Powering it on the screen lit up and no password was needed. Strangely, it opened directly to a Gmail account, Clara Simmons. Eleanor frowned, fingers hesitating. Who's Clara Simmons, she wondered, heart racing. She nearly closed it, thinking it a mistake, but an email titled New Content Scheduled for Friday stopped her. Attached was a professionally lit photo, perfectly angled, featuring Sarah. Not the homemaker Sarah in cashmere with a faint smile, but a confident, alluring Sarah in scant clothing, her gaze sharp like a seasoned performer. Eleanor's blood ran cold. She clicked the email unveiling a secret world, dozens of emails, contracts, video schedules, and viewer analytics. Focus on mirror angles, emphasize heels, hide tattoos. A note read, a calendar with detailed weekly video uploads, view counts, and OnlyFans revenue. Eleanor whispered her daughter-in-law's name, Sarah. The word felt alien, a misfit in the family picture she'd painted. She found a folder labeled Taxes Secondary ID containing scans a Nevada driver's license for Clara Jade Simmons, issued 6 months before Sarah married Michael. Eleanor set the iPad down, the room seeming to tilt. "Who is she?" she whispered, voice trembling. She recalled Sarah's averted glances, her cold words. "Tell me what you need. I'll get it." She'd thought it was typical mother-in-law tension, but now it was clear. Sarah wasn't just a wife and mother. She was living a second life, a secret empire under a false name, with videos Tommy, her grandson, should never see. Eleanor's heart ached not from her surgery, but from a mother's pain at her family's violation by deceit. The next morning, Eleanor maintained a standard facade. She watched Sarah prepare Tommy's meal at the breakfast table, slicing apples with mechanical precision, eyes never leaving her phone. Michael was at work, leaving tension between the women. Sipping tea, Eleanor asked softly but sharply, "Sarah, do you ever do work outside the family?" Sarah looked up, her faint smile unchanged. "Me, just some online stuff, Grandma. Nothing special." Her hand paused for a second, and Eleanor knew Sarah sensed her suspicion. She didn't press further, but a plan formed. Eleanor noted in a small notebook hidden in her coat Clara Simmons' OnlyFans Nevada ID secret. She recalled Sarah's late-night PTA meetings and calls taken behind locked doors. Once, Tommy asked, "Where has Mommy been going for so long?" Sarah had laughed, ruffling his hair, "Working to buy you toys." Eleanor had seen it as a mother's love, but now she knew it was a cover for another life. That night, she reopened the iPad and found a chilling note. "Keep Tommy off the iPad. Change your password weekly." She thought of Tommy, the 5-year-old, who hugged her and begged for dinosaur stories. Would he still smile so freely if he learned his mother led a double life? Eleanor clutched her chest, feeling her surgical scar throb. She hurt not just from betrayal, but for her grandson, the last piece of her family at risk from this truth. Another email from someone named Cynthia read, "Call back when safe." Eleanor frowned. Who was Cynthia? A friend, partner, or part of Sarah's secret world? She saved the email, took a screenshot, determined to dig deeper. She'd have to confront Michael and Sarah to reclaim her money, truth, and dignity. But this time she wouldn't be the unthinkingly sacrificing mother. She'd be a woman demanding justice. Looking out the window, the rosemary thrived under the moonlight, reminding her of her strength. She whispered, "Sarah, you think I see nothing but everything." That night she didn't cry. Instead, she wrote in her notebook, "Find Cynthia. Find the truth." The road ahead was perilous, but Eleanor Thompson was no longer a weak mother. She was a warrior ready to protect her family and herself from the lies suffocating them. Eleanor Thompson sat in the darkness of the room now called the guest room, the glow of her old laptop illuminating her face, accentuating the deeper wrinkles etched by days of pain and suspicion. The night was quiet in Los Angeles, with only the wind rustling through the garden, where the rosemary stood resiliently like her. After uncovering Sarah's secret identity as Clara Simmons and her OnlyFans videos, Eleanor knew the betrayal by her son Michael and daughter-in-law went beyond stolen bank accounts. Something darker lurked, and she was determined to peel back every layer. Tonight, she'd sift through spam emails where secrets often hid in meaningless lines. Opening her laptop, her hands trembled as she scrolled through dozens of ads and junk mail. One subject line halted her policy approved. "Welcome to EquiShield Life," sent 2 days before her heart surgery. Eleanor frowned, heart pounding. She clicked, breath catching, as she read, "Dear Ms. Thompson, we confirm your $250,000 whole life insurance policy is active. Primary beneficiary Michael Thompson. Coverage begins immediately." Attached was a PDF with her signature crisp, perfect, unlike the shaky scrawl she made in the hospital under morphine's haze. She reread each word a stab. She didn't recall signing any insurance policy, especially not that week when she fought to survive. The signature was too clean, too precise like a digital stylus. She opened the PDF, scanned the fine print, and paused at the signature. Comparing it to her hospital signatures, weak, jagged like a child's, she whispered, "This isn't mine." Voice trembling with anger and fear. Michael hadn't just taken her money. He'd planned for her death, turning her into a payout if she didn't survive surgery. She stood walking to the kitchen, where moonlight through the window danced shadows of rosemary on the floor. She ran the tap, pretending to wash a cup to mask her stifled sobs. She recalled Michael as a boy running after her in the garden, shouting, "Mom, I'll make you proud." Now he'd not only betrayed her, but calculated her death. Looking at the garden, her refuge after long workdays, she whispered, "My son, how could you?" Tears streaming down. The next morning, Eleanor confronted him. At the breakfast table, she kept calm as Michael entered, coffee in hand. Sarah was out, leaving tension between mother and son. "Michael," she said, voice soft but sharp as a blade. "I need to ask about an insurance policy. Do you know anything about it?" Michael paused, a flicker of panic in his eyes before his familiar smile returned. "Insurance? Oh, that was in the hospital packet, remember? Just a precaution. Families prepare." "Prepare," Eleanor echoed, voice icy. "Prepare for what, Michael?" "My death." He gave a forced laugh, gripping his coffee tighter. "What are you talking about, Mom? It's just paperwork. Did you read it?" "Nothing weird." But she saw the strain in his shoulders, his averted gaze. She nodded, pretending to accept, but knew this was no misunderstanding. It was a scheme. That night, she printed the PDF, tucking it into a hidden notebook in her coat. She listed fake signature, life insurance, Michael beneficiary, researching EquiShield Life. She found it specialized in elderly policies, easily activated with legal authorization. She recalled the hospital papers, Michael's smile as she signed, and a chill ran down her spine. They planned this, she thought, gripping her pen. She recalled Michael's feigned concern about her health and the late-night calls with Sarah. Once she overheard Sarah whisper, "Let him handle the paperwork." She'd thought it was about taxes, but now she understood they were carving up her life. She tried accessing the bank transaction history, but the password had been changed. She emailed the bank to restore access, knowing time wasn't on her side. Stepping into the garden, she sat by the rosemary, breathing its familiar scent. She recalled teaching Tommy to tend plants and to wait patiently for growth. "Grandma, this plant's strong, right?" he'd asked. "Yes, strong like me," she'd replied, smiling brightly. Now she needed that strength. She wasn't fighting for money or her house, but for her dignity, her years of sacrifice, and Tommy, the innocent boy caught in the crossfire of deceit. Returning inside, she wrote in her notebook, "Verify signature. Find a lawyer." To face Michael and Sarah, she needed hard evidence, unassailable truth. Looking in the mirror, she saw a tired but unbroken woman. "They think I'm weak, easily fooled," she whispered. "But I'll show them who I am." Sleepless, she sat at the table, the laptop's light on her resolute face, a warrior ready to dismantle the lies enveloping her family. Eleanor Thompson woke on a Tuesday morning, sunlight filtering through the curtains, illuminating the room now labeled the guest room. It was her 66th birthday, but the suburban Los Angeles house held no festive air, no cake, no flowers, no wishes from Michael or Sarah. Sitting on the edge of the bed, she ran her hand over the unfamiliar blanket, her heart heavy. She'd sacrificed her life for her son, saving every penny, forgoing personal dreams for Michael's bright future. But now, in the home she'd built, she felt like a ghost, forgotten by those who once called her family. She walked to the kitchen, maintaining a calm facade. Michael read the news on his phone, coffee steaming. Sarah sliced fruit for Tommy, her movements swift but cold, not glancing at Eleanor. Tommy, the 5-year-old with big eyes, ran to hug her legs. "Grandma, can I have pancakes today?" Eleanor smiled, ruffling his hair, but her eyes stayed on Michael and Sarah. She hoped faintly they'd remember this special day. She told herself that maybe they're planning a surprise, though her heart knew better. Breakfast passed in silence. Michael discussed a new law firm case. Sarah nodded, eyes on her phone. No one mentioned her birthday. Eleanor sipped chamomile tea from Grandma's stuff box in the cabinet, and its taste was as bland as her mood. She tried a conversation. "Nice day." Michael nodded absently. Sarah didn't respond. Tommy alone replied, voice bright. "Grandma, nice for the park." Eleanor smiled but faded as she realized she was weaving false hope. By noon, she still waited. Sitting in the strange recliner, she flipped through an old history book from the garage, its pages evoking her teaching days, imparting courage and truth. But today, no courage came from her family. She walked to the garden where Rosemary's scent comforted her like an old friend. Plucking a sprig, she inhaled, whispering, "Happy birthday, Eleanor." Her own wish sounded lonely but sparked strength within. Eleanor sat at the table's end that evening, in her usual place in family gatherings. Dinner was store-bought taco shells, crisp but lifeless. Michael poured wine for himself and Sarah. Eleanor got lemon water, but there was no slice. They discussed Tommy's school schedule, TikTok trivialities, and excluding her. She ate slowly, seeking a sign they remembered her birthday. Nothing. No flowers, no gifts, no wishes. As dinner ended, Sarah cleared plates, then placed a plain cupcake before Eleanor. No candle, no frosting, just a dry store-bought sponge. Sarah leaned in, her faint smile creasing one cheek. She whispered, cold as ice. "You should be grateful we still let you stay here." The words cut deep into Eleanor's heart. She looked up, hoping Michael would speak, but he scrolled his phone, oblivious. Tommy played with a napkin, folding it into a triangle, carefree as any child. Eleanor's hands trembled as she held the cupcake. She took a bite, its dry, flavorless taste embodying the gratitude Sarah demanded. She swallowed not for taste, but to hide her weakness. That night, Eleanor closed the door in the guest room. Sitting on the bed, she stared at the bare wall, devoid of family photos or laughter. She lit the table lamp, its soft glow illuminating her face, a woman who'd sacrificed everything now deemed a burden. She whispered, "Happy birthday, Eleanor." The words echoed in the silence, a quiet declaration of war. She didn't cry, refusing to break. Opening her hidden notebook, she wrote, "Birthday." No one remembered. Sarah. "Be grateful. They're wrong." She recalled past birthdays, baking cakes with young Michael, blowing out candles under warm lights. She remembered Tommy hugging her, begging for stories. But that family was gone, replaced by strangers who saw her as an obstacle. Sarah's words, "be grateful," ignited her silent sacrifices, turning pain into resolve. To reclaim her dignity, she'd face the truth, however painful. Standing, she looked out at the moonlit garden. The rosemary stood firm like her. She thought of Tommy caught in his parents' secrets, the fake insurance policy, and Sarah's Clara Simmons identity. Each piece was a cut and a brick in her path of resistance. She wrote in her notebook, "Protect Tommy, expose Sarah." The road ahead was daunting, but Eleanor was no longer the enduring mother. She was a warrior ready to protect what remained of her family and herself. Eleanor Thompson sat at the kitchen table, morning light filtering through the window, casting specks of dust in the still air of her suburban Los Angeles home. After her forgotten birthday and the painful discoveries of the fake life insurance policy and Sarah's secret Clara Simmons identity, her heart felt like shattered glass, fragile yet sharp, capable of cutting through lies. She'd begun documenting, collecting evidence, and was determined to expose Michael and Sarah. But this morning, an innocent question from her 5-year-old grandson, Tommy, gripped her heart as if her old surgical scar bled anew. Tommy sat across from her, small legs swinging under the chair, wearing dinosaur pajamas. He scooped cereal, sugary bits glinting in the light. Cartoon music played softly from the living room TV, but the kitchen felt heavy, as if the world held its breath. Eleanor poured milk for Tommy, forcing a warm smile, but her eyes betrayed worry. She'd regained composure after sleepless nights, haunted by Sarah's OnlyFans secrets and Michael's schemes. But she wasn't prepared for Tommy's sudden question. "Grandma," he said, voice clear, spoon pausing midair. "Does Mommy make movies?" Eleanor dropped the cereal box grains clattering on the floor like a warning. She bent to pick them up, hiding her pale face. "Why do you ask, Tommy?" she replied, voice soft but trembling, striving for calm. Tommy shrugged his big eyes, innocent yet curious. "Jackson at school said his brother saw a video. He said Mommy's in it. But I told him it's not true. Mommy works at home, right?" Eleanor's chest tightened. She sat beside Tommy, placing her hand over his, feeling the sticky syrup on his small fingers. "What else did you hear?" she asked, her voice gentle but sharp like the teacher seeking truth. Tommy looked down, fidgeting with his spoon. "Jackson said, Mommy uses a different name, but I saw it on her iPad. There was a lady who looked like Mommy, but shinier." The word shinier stabbed Eleanor's heart. She pictured Sarah or Clara Simmons in the videos she'd seen, with perfect lighting, confident smiles, living a life Tommy shouldn't know. "I'm not sure, sweetheart," Eleanor said, voice soft but honest. "But I'll find out, okay?" Tommy nodded, returning to his cereal, but his eyes held a flicker of worry as if sensing cracks in his family. Eleanor hugged him, breathing in his hair's scent of milk and innocence. She thought of telling him dinosaur stories in the afternoons when he napped on her lap. He was the last light in this family, and she couldn't let Sarah's secrets hurt him. That night, Eleanor reopened the iPad, which was heart-heavy. The Clara Simmons folder remained with emails about video schedules, revenue, and secrecy notes. One chided her, "Keep Tommy off the iPad. Change your password weekly." Eleanor clenched her fists, nails digging into her palms. Sarah wasn't hiding her false identity from her and Michael, but protecting it from her son. Yet Tommy had seen and heard his innocence threatened by schoolyard whispers. She found another email from Cynthia Call back when safe. "Don't let Dee know." Was Dee Daniel or Michael? She noted Cynthia linked to Sarah Investigate. She needed to dig deeper, but the most significant pain wasn't Sarah's secrets, but Tommy being dragged into the divide between truth and lies. She recalled his eyes asking, "Does Mommy make movies?" That question warned that the truth, though painful, must surface to protect him. Standing on the porch, the cool night air enveloped her. The rosemary in the garden thrived despite neglect. "Strong like me," she whispered, smiling sadly. She recalled teaching students that truth finds a way, however slow. Now she'd pave that way for herself and Tommy. Returning inside, she wrote in her hidden notebook, "Protect Tommy. Find Cynthia." What else is Sarah hiding? Looking in the mirror, she saw a weary but unbroken woman. Her surgical scar had healed, but her heart's wounds bled. Yet that pain fueled her strength. She thinks of Michael's betrayal and Sarah's double life, but above all Tommy, who is undeserving of these secrets. "I'll fight," she whispered, voice firm. "Not for money or the house, but for you, Tommy." Back at the table, she searched online about OnlyFans and identity concealment. To confront Sarah, she needed more than emails and undeniable truth. Sleepless, the laptop's light bathed her face, a silent flame of resolve. Eleanor was no longer the sacrificing mother. She was a warrior ready to dismantle the lies to protect her grandson and reclaim her dignity. Eleanor Thompson sat in the corner of the living room, the dim table lamp's light highlighting her weathered face, her eyes burning with resolve. The Los Angeles night was quiet, only crickets humming in the garden, where the rosemary's scent symbolized her silent strength. After Tommy's innocent question about his mother, and the discoveries of Sarah's Clara Simmons identity and the fake life insurance signature, Eleanor knew she couldn't stop. Each truth was a brick in her path to justice, not just for herself, but to shield her grandson from the family's suffocating secrets. Opening her laptop, her hands trembled as she scanned notes in her hidden notebook. Fake signature, life insurance, Clara Simmons, Cynthia. These words mapped her journey through Michael and Sarah's deceit. She needed irrefutable evidence to confront them truth courts, and the world would accept. Recalling a lecture on building arguments, truth is only strong with proof, she decided to verify the insurance policy's signature, which she knew wasn't hers. Searching online, she chose an independent document analysis service in downtown Los Angeles, booking an appointment as Helen Carter to avoid suspicion. The next morning, she left early, telling Sarah she had a routine doctor's visit. Sarah nodded, eyes distracted, as if Eleanor's presence was a nuisance. On the bus, Eleanor's heart raced, thinking of her task. The expert's office was small, smelling of ink and burnt coffee. A middle-aged man in thick glasses greeted her politely. "Ms. Carter, come in." Eleanor placed the printed insurance contract on the table, pointing to the signature. "I need to know if this is real," she said, voice calm but sharp. He examined it under a magnifying glass, comparing it to her post-surgery signature, shaky, barely legible. He frowned, then looked up, serious. "This isn't a pen signature. It's a stylus, likely from an iPad. No natural pressure variation, too clean, too perfect. You didn't sign this." His words pierced the darkness like light. Eleanor had suspected, but hearing it from an unbiased source made her blood surge. "Are you sure?" she asked, voice trembling. He nodded, handing her a stamped report. "This is court admissible." She left with the documents, relief mixed with anger. She hid them in her purse under an old handkerchief, unnoticed. On the bus home, she stared out, thinking of Michael, once her world, and Sarah, who'd turned their family into a stage of deception. At home, she tucked the report into a donate bag in the garage, where Michael and Sarah never looked. In her notebook, she wrote, "Fake signature expert confirmed." Legal evidence. She began building a truth file storing details, bank transfer emails, Sarah's OnlyFans screenshots, Cynthia's notes, and the handwriting report. Each piece was an arrow, her bow ready to aim. That night, she reopened Sarah's iPad, carefully scanning emails. A new folder caught her eye. Secondary contracts. Inside was a file, marriage license, Nevada. Her heart pounded as she opened a marriage certificate between Clara Jade Simmons and Cynthia Bell, issued in 2016, 3 years before Sarah married Michael. No divorce or annulment. Bigamy. Eleanor whispered the word, a sharp blade. Sarah wasn't just living a double life. She'd committed a crime, dragging Michael into her web. She screenshot printed and added it to her truth file. She thought of Tommy, his innocent question, "Does Mommy make movies? If Sarah's truth spread, he'd suffer most." She couldn't let that happen without fighting. She wrote, "Bigamy Sarah, Clara. Protect Tommy." Looking at the garden, the rosemary stood firm in the dark, reminding her that its strength came from quiet persistence. Returning to her room, she sat before the mirror, seeing a tired woman with silver hair, but a burning gaze. She recalled teaching "Truth finds a way, but you must pave it." She was paving it for herself, Tommy, and the family dignity she'd sacrificed for. She whispered, "Sarah Michael, you think I'll stay silent. You're wrong." Opening her laptop, she researched California's bigamy laws. Each step built her path to justice. She needed more than evidence, a plan, an ally, a voice to reach the world. The laptop's light bathed her face, promising truth's triumph, however slow. Eleanor was no longer the enduring mother. She was a warrior ready to dismantle the lies to reclaim her own. Eleanor Thompson sat in the room labeled guest room, the dim table lamp's light accentuating her weathered face, her eyes blazing with resolve. Outside Los Angeles lay quiet, the garden's rosemary scent, a reminder she was never alone. After verifying the fake signature, uncovering Sarah's bigamy, and Tommy's painful questions, Eleanor knew the truth couldn't stay hidden. Her truth file held evidence, bank emails, fake insurance contracts, Sarah's marriage to Cynthia Bell, and the handwriting analysis. To confront Michael and Sarah, she needed a louder voice, someone to bring her story to light. She recalled a former student, Nora Ray, who sat in the back of her AP history class, hair messy, eyes fiery. Now a freelance journalist hosting Hidden Ledger, a podcast exposing fraud and financial abuse. Nora was perfect. Eleanor found Nora's email online, fingers trembling as she typed, "A story that needs telling." She wrote briefly, each word heavy. "I'm Eleanor Thompson, your old teacher. I need your help to bring the truth to light. They took everything, my money, home, dignity. I have proof." She attached the truth file and hit send, her heart pounding like when she was taught about courage. 2 hours later, her phone rang. "Mrs. Thompson." Nora's voice, warm yet sharp, echoed her student days. "I remember you. You said truth wins even if slowly."